it's Judy, welcome to my channel, and today I thought I would take a look at the new You Can Be Emancipation palette. Now this is another palette that is supposed to be a, what's the polite way of putting this, inspired by the Subculture palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. It's very similar to the W7 On The Rocks palette that I reviewed not that long ago. So if you'd like to see that particular palette and how I created that look, which is pretty much the same as how I created this look, then I will put a card up here so that you can get to it. But if you'd like to see what I thought of this palette and how it all came together, then please keep watching. Okay, so in my On The Rocks video, I started out with this white tone in the top corner here, which is called Sugar Rim, and discovered after I'd put it on that it is a slight shimmer, and actually it wasn't suitable to go in as a base colour. So I then went in with Moscato, which is this next colour here in the On The Rocks palette. So I'm going to start with that colour here, and I'm going to use that as a transition colour. So then I went in with Cheers, which is this colour, well, this colour here, this kind of taupey grey colour here. So I'm going to do that again. Quite a darker colour than it is in the On The Rocks palette. So I'm going to go back in with a fluffy brush and see if I can blend that out. Next I went in with a flat-ended brush and I went into the colour Bloody Mary, and the equivalent on the You Can Be palette is this one here. And then I took the other end of that double-ended brush and just blended that in. And then with a fine detail brush, I went in with a little bit of Last Call. And the equivalent of Last Call on this palette is this one down in the bottom corner here. Did you come to make it right? Did you come to say goodbye? Did you come to say goodbye? There's a little bit of fallout on my eye, on my cheek, so I'm just going to go back in with my foundation brush and just tidy that up a bit. And that's the final look. So I'll go away and put on mascara and finish off my makeup and come back and tell you what I think of it. And so there we have the final look. What I will say about the Emancipation palette is that it seems to be a slightly more pigmented version of the On The Rocks palette. There is a subtle difference between the shades, on the two palettes. If I just hold the two palettes up for you, you can see the differences between them, hopefully. So in this hand I'm holding the On the Rocks palette, and in this hand I have the Emancipation palette. So you can see that they are very similar. I would say that the On the Rocks palette, the colours appear darker, but in the Emancipation palette there's more pigmentation. So it just goes to show you that looking at the colours of a particular palette just in the palette doesn't really give you an idea of how it's going to perform. I think this eye look, although I've used exactly the same colours from the two palettes in the two videos, I think this the Emancipation palette actually turned out better. But tell me what you think. If you'd like me to do like I did with the W7 and the previous W7 palette and the UCAN-B heat palettes, if you'd like me to do a side-by-side comparison of that, give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment in the bottom, and I will quite happily do that for you. I'm quite pleased with this. So if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Just hit that little subscribe button down here somewhere, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.